Chapter 10, The Night Watch. It was already 7:30 p.m., and Rose was still working. It was the second week she missed her session with Sienna, and that was driving her mad. Her life was slowly falling apart for the past 1 year and a half, as the work demands were increasing and she was unable to live a healthy life anymore. First, she couldn't do her hobbies. Later, Rose didn't have time to go to the gym and exercise. It didn't take long for her to start neglecting her house cleaning, and nowadays she couldn't even cook for herself anymore. Now, and that was her limit. Her therapy sessions were compromised because of her narcissistic boss. The situation at work was contributing immensely to her entire depressive process and making her recovery difficult from the beginning. That night, Rose was, as always, working too much, and it was hard to concentrate. The meditation practices were focused on calming herself and relaxing her mind to fight the exhaustion, but her efforts were only so she could continue to work harder. She wasn't directly threatened by her boss, but he was making it clear that whether Rose dedicates all her awake time to that job or she was going to be replaced soon. That meant Rose didn't have much of a choice, and she kept working beyond her limits. There was a huge problem in dealing with people's ego in there, and she was sick of it. Everyone was convinced that their work was better or their name more significant, but truth is that very few artists become renowned, and no one that she met in person actually did. Still, folks had to be pampered, and Rose was terrible at it. What always put her in a place of overwork and little recognition. Rose was missing her peace. "Okay, I am done with this shit," Rose said to herself before leaving, letting all her material as messed up as her mind. There was a sushi bar across the street, and she went there to have dinner and clear her mind. Rose was tired and finally decided to set some boundaries. And if her boss decided to fire her, then he could go to hell. It was a warm and nice evening. The sky was clear and she could see some stars. There were people all around enjoying the autumn colors and having fun, and Rose noticed how much she missed having fun. "Hi dear, sorry again for missing our session. I am gonna send that job to hell now and take care of myself again as you told me to. Can we see each other in the weekend? I need my bestie and some wine." Rose texted Sienna while picking a table close to the windows so she could continue enjoying the view. She ordered some sushi and a glass of Chandon, her favorite, and put away her phone to enjoy her meal and watch people there. It was almost one of her favorite hobbies anyway, to watch people living their lives and imagine their stories in her mind. It was just from a different window than her living room one. Her phone vibrated and she picked up. It was Sienna. "Hey, don't worry, I got it. Let's try to do your session next Monday, so we won't have to wait another full week. Saturday afternoon, Paul is going to play golf with his coworkers. Do you want to step by?" "Sure, see you soon." Rose texted back, putting away the phone again, ignoring all the emails and notifications that were accumulated there. The only thing she double-checked was the text messages. Rose always looked twice, waiting for Alex to talk to her, but no. She couldn't spend much time trying to connect with him because of her crazy life, but something interesting was happening for a couple days when she goes to bed. The waiter approached her and asked if she wanted any dessert. She still had wine to drink, so she ordered ice cream and continued watching the window, lost in her own thoughts. There was so much life outside. Suddenly she felt tickles in the top of her head, and she felt really sleepy. The sensation was comfortable and peaceful, and she felt relaxed. Rose wasn't driving that day, so she allowed the feeling to take over, making her yawn and her eyes a little wet, so she paid the bill and went home. Rose was falling asleep and waking up all the way on the bus, and the sleepiness seemed to be increasing, in a way that when she arrived at home, felt like she was dragging herself up to the elevator. The comfy sensations were still spreading through her body in waves, from the top of her head to the tip of her toes and back, and once Rose was in, she let herself fall onto the sofa and fell asleep immediately. It was a light nap. Rose could feel it. It was like she didn't completely sleep, but wasn't awakened as well. Like if she was conscious of her surroundings and her own thoughts, but at the same time, in complete rest and relaxation. Somehow felt to Rose like that second before you fall asleep was actually lasting more than a brief instant, and she was aware of it. So Rose saw herself floating and felt even more relaxed than before. The tingles in her head got more intense, and she started seeing and hearing better. What was her surprise when Mikhail was there, smiling at her? "Hi, Rose, please don't be afraid," Mikhail said, holding her hands. Rose tried to speak, but it was hard, so she pressed his hands tightly so Mikhail would know she was there. "We are here today for you to know that you are not alone," Mikhail told her, pulling her right hand to her side. Rose then saw someone else. It was a lovable old lady, smiling at her. She resembled Mrs. Claus to Rose, and she spontaneously called her Nana, as she used to do with her grandmother. The old lady laughed and hugged Rose, saying, "You can call me Nana, I like it." Rose was feeling emotional and happy in a way she didn't feel in a very long time. It wasn't euphoric, it was genuine happiness and the peace that she needed so deeply. Then suddenly, she felt a warm hand in her shoulder. She looked back and saw a lady. The lady was sitting in the back of the sofa where Rose was asleep and extending her hand to her. The lady was pretty young, with reddish-brown hair, long in a braid, and she was wearing a Victorian dress, red and black, very pretty and fancy. Rose talked to her, but she couldn't understand her own words, and in the same way, when the lady spoke to her, Rose nodded her head in agreement, but immediately forgot what she had heard. The lady then pointed towards the kitchen, and Rose saw, spread in her house, a group of people. Some had unconventional looks and had symbols on their clothes and appearance, and some of them seemed to Rose to be known. A man called Rose's attention. He was around his 50 or 60 years old. He was bald and had a mustache, and for some reason Rose recognized him. She tried to get close, and once more she couldn't do it properly. So the man came towards her, and Rose suddenly started hearing the laugh of children. To her own astonishment, Rose asked, "Why do I always hear children laughing when I see you?" And he answered her, but Rose couldn't remember as well. Does she see him often? Probably. Rose knew his face. Other people there seemed familiar. 3 young and beautiful ladies standing in a line, 2 young black men, one wearing black cape and hat with shadows in his face, another wearing a white suit and exuding joy, and some more people around. Rose felt the impetus of hugging them all, so she opened her arms, but her emotions got exacerbated, and before she woke up, Mikhail said, "You must recognize us so others won't fool you." Rose opened her eyes, and she was still on the sofa. Her excitement was remarkable. The tingles were still there, and she understood that it was a sign of their presence. "Mikhail?" Rose asked. And the tingles in her head got more intense, as well as a warm sensation in her left shoulder. That was amazing. Rose couldn't explain the sensation of that presence. She was feeling loved and embraced. The sleepiness she was feeling before was now gone, and even after having dinner, she was hungry again. Rose went to bed, and that day she didn't need the meditation to calm herself. She was feeling great. And as it was happening for the past nights, Alex showed up in her bed. They were sleeping together for a while now. First started with Rose trying to reach him in her meditations, but she was so tired that she would fall asleep too fast and have no results. However, she noticed Alex near her, and day by day his presence became clearer. They would meet in his bed or hers and sleep in each other's arms. Their conversations were brief, as she couldn't keep the concentration for long before sleeping. But with time, Rose could feel his body over hers, his breath, the texture and smell of his hair, and even when she woke up in the middle of the night, Alex was there. It was interesting that, when they were together years ago, Rose usually slept over his chest, but now it was the other way around, with him sleeping over her more often. Rose wanted to know more about his life and everything that was happening to him, but she was scared of asking and hearing things she didn't want to, so their encounters were about spending time together and giving each other affection. That experience was giving her relief from her heartache, and Rose didn't want to think too much about. She was simply enjoying that moment as much as she could. Next morning, she had a meeting with her boss. Rose knew it was useless, as he was never happy with whatever she did. It didn't matter how hard she tried, it was going to be a shit show anyways. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't terrified about it. Actually, she was remarkably cool about that and questioned herself why, so she felt the warm touch in her left shoulder. with the tingles, and understood. She was protected. In the morning, after coming out of bed and drinking her coffee, Rose grabbed her tarot deck, and once she started pulling cards, she heard a voice in her head saying, "Pray!" So she started praying and asking for God to protect her and allow her to use the cards. "Who is there?" Rose asked, pulling a card. "The Hierophant." "Michael? Is that you?" "Ace of Wands." "It was always you?" Rose asked. "Seven of Swords." "Oh, and how do I speak to you?" Rose asked. And once more she heard a voice in her mind saying, "Pray!" She pulled a card, to be sure. The High Priestess. "Okay, I understood. So what's happening with Alex?" Three of Pentacles. Rose felt an intuition to pull more cards. She started to pull cards and spread in front of her in a semicircle shape. King of Cups, Five of Wands, King of Pentacles. Rose starts speaking out loud spontaneously, without thinking too much, and feeling Mikhail's hand in her left shoulder. He is divided between the love he feels and the practical and material life. Why? Can't him have both? The Hermit, Three of Cups, Six of Cups. Alex thinks he will be better alone. He is hurt from the past. Rose said, and that made her heart to ache. Does he hates me? The devil. No, he doesn't. Then what do I do? Rose asked. The Magician. Wait, what? What do I do? Two of Cups, the Lovers, Ace of Pentacles. Rose stared at the cards for a while, trying to figure it out what it was, and she felt the tingles in her head, calming her down. She had to hear, not guess after all. She relaxed and allowed herself to start speaking freely. Soulmates. We will have another chance, a restart. But how? The world. The Fool. Temperance. Breaking free from old cycles patterns. Patience. Balance. But what about him? Wheel of Fortune. The Star. You guys are helping him. Okay. And what if doesn't work? Justice. Ten of Cups. It will. We deserve happiness, Rose said, and that comforted her more than she could ever imagine. Rose shuffled the cards, and without asking anything, she pulled a card, and it was the Ten of Cups again. Happiness with the love of her life. Her soulmate. One more shuffle, and one more card. Ten of Cups again. Okay, I think that's all for today, Rose said, putting away the cards and praying once more to thank for the messages. She was going to be smart from now on and pray asking for protection every time she was using her tarot cards. It makes sense after all. If she can speak to Mikhail and other spirits, as she understood they were, then maybe some bad ones could try to deceive her. Like those people that play with Ouija boards and end up with a haunted ass in the horror movies. So Rose dressed up, grabbed another coffee and her recently discovered courage, and went to work to slaughter that capitalist mythological beast in the meeting.